Well, measurement is one of the most important things as it relates to advertising and specifically TV advertising. And measurement has a lot of different meanings. Measurement can mean looking at exposure or impressions and being able to measure the reach and frequency. Or it can mean attribution and being able to understand which impressions drove which outcomes. Both important, both critical for the industry to continue to grow, and that's why everyone continues to talk about measurement.
So many people here are arguing that measurement has become a much bigger problem for the industry. Why? What's driven that challenge?
Well, it really stems from the amount of fragmentation that we see in the industry today. In the past, being able to understand impressions or, at the time, gross rating points across different forms of video, panels worked really well. I think as the fragmentation has continued to grow and as consumers are engaging with content across a number of different ways, whether it's traditional linear television or over an app or a streaming service, that has ultimately created a lot of fragmentation, making measurement more challenging.
So I think most people now recognize that identity resolution is critical for the future of measurement. Just explain the connection to us. Why is ID resolution so important?
Yeah, I think identity is the way that we can solve for that fragmentation that we just talked about. Being able to take an impression and tie the set of impressions for a single household across linear plus all of the different apps for CTV is really, really critical, and identity is the way that you're able to do that in an accurate fashion. So I think if you want to be able to understand impressions or even outcomes, being able to anchor that against a privacy compliant identity solution is critical in order to solve that fragmentation.
Now, huge progress has been made in the ID resolution space over the last couple of years, but there's a lot of talk here today about siloing, about solutions that work with one part of the TV universe but not the entirety. Give us your sense of the ID resolution landscape today.
Well, I think when you think about identity resolution, it really starts with the household, especially within television, because the lion's share of video viewing, of television viewing, happens within the household. And that becomes the lowest common denominator for being able to really understand outcomes and impressions across different forms of video. So if you want to be able to do that, well, you have to have an accurate household identity solution that is able to tie together IP-based broadband viewing and exposure and impressions to linear viewing and impressions. And the way that you do that, in our view, is that you work with distributors who have the pipeline into the home, who are able to bring those pieces together through their first-party subscriber data. And that has to be done in a very privacy-friendly way, and that's really what we're aimed at solving with those companies, those MSOs.
Now, you've been very clear in the past that the household is the only reliable, underlying, deterministic source of identity, the only thing we can really rely on. Why is that?
Well, I think it comes down to two things. Number one, it's the lowest common denominator, meaning it's something that becomes really accessible throughout the industry, being able to take mailing and postal and tie that data to digital viewing and digital impressions that's delivered over digital identifiers. So I think being the lowest common denominator that is accessible is one part of it. I think the second comes down to the lack of authentication across all forms of video, all forms of CTV. And I think if you look at where a lot of the ad-supported video happens, it happens on fast subscription services. And those fast services don't always have login information, don't have email accessible, and nor does linear television. So being able to take an identity solution that ties together at the household level is really what will ultimately allow the industry to solve that reach frequency problem across platforms.
So Jason, a final word. If there's one thing that we as an industry focus on solving in 2023, what would you like us to get our heads together to try and sort out?
Well, aside from a lot of the important climate changes that need to happen as an industry, and I think we're seeing some exciting work within our own industry at solving some of those big existential problems. If I think more micro in terms of what our industry needs to solve, it really boils down to being able to reduce ad loads to consumers in a way that is respectful of their privacy and allows us to deliver an ad at the optimal frequency instead of at a repetitive ad being served to the same household several times. And that's where I think it's really important for our industry to work together to solve that identity problem in an accurate, friendly, privacy-friendly fashion.
Tell us a bit about Blockgraph during the last 12 to 18 months. What have you been focused on? What progress have you guys been making?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Blockgraph is a joint venture that is a partnership between Comcast, Charter, and Paramount. And our focus has been on providing a platform that allows TV buyers, sellers, and distributors to protect their data and connect directly with one another for identity-based advertising. In terms of our progress, we've been really laser focused on executing 3 priorities. The first priority is growing our distribution footprint. So today we have north of 70 million households where we power our solution on deterministic MSO data, and we have the ability to match into 70 million households deterministically through our partnerships with various distributors. Likewise, we have been building out our ability to work with a variety of identity providers in the ecosystem to provide that national representative sample size. So distribution has been core to our priorities. The second priority has been growing out activation and activation solutions, and we're doing some really exciting things with the agency community who looks to apply their first-party data to those households that I mentioned deterministically for addressable TV and CTV targeting. And the third priority is really around measurement and attribution. And we've been working with our providers of data to be able to do a lot of very advanced attribution and measurement solutions for TV inventory. So a lot of exciting progress. We've grown the team. North of 35 people today, continue to grow our business significantly, and it's been a fun ride.